Hello? Hello?
Everybody can come
Good
in.
morning.
Public hearing, everybody's welcome.
Just let me know when you're ready to start the meeting, Terry.
Want me to start, Mary?
I was gonna run it, but if you want to do it, it's fine with me.
We're having a little trouble hearing you, Mary.
If we could hear her, she could do it. If we could see her.
Do you want me to start, Mary?
My computer is acting like
Okay, I'll
bizarre.
start it. We're gonna wait 2 more minutes because we told everybody 1:10.
Okay, that's what, Terry, if you do that, I'd appreciate it. Did you hear me?
Hear you loud and clear, Counselor.
Thank you.
Piece of cake.
All reappointments.
Great.
They're all doing great.
Nice and easy.
It's our job. Can't do it.
All doing. The governor dated May 18, 2022 to the Executive Council. It says, I am pleased to nominate Catherine Watson Koziol for reappointment to the position of the Administrative Law Judge at the Department of Industrial Actions to a 6-year term expiring August 8, 2026. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Mass General Law 23E, Section 5. I'm enclosing the nominee's resume for your convenience. Sincerely, Charles D. Baker. Okay, I understand that the Chief Judge is here and he's going to be offering some testimony. Currently, we have in the room Councilor Duff, we have Councilor Ferrara and Councilor Devaney. The other councilors will be in momentarily. I'll introduce them when they come in. Judge Hernandez, I understand you're here to speak on behalf of all of the reappointments today.
That's correct.
And it would be really nice if we could wrap them all up into one speech.
I would do my best, and that was my intent. That was my intention, to do all in one speech. Thank you.
Thank you for the speech. We appreciate it. No, that's
I'm here, these 4 judges, I know always come up here, basically bragging about how great my judges are, and they are. But these 4 are truly the cream of the crop. They have, the last few years, given everything we've been through, have stepped up, whether it be mediations, pre-hearing conferences, pre-hearing memos, walk-in lump sums, whatever it has taken, they've stepped up and not only maintained it, but it's exceeded my expectations. I come here asking for the privilege of being confirmed. I asked for your vote, and I could not speak more highly of all 4 candidates.
You're back 100% from the pandemic?
With in-person hearings, for hearings, we're in person. For conciliations and conferences, we're still virtual. We have not missed a beat. In fact, with conciliations, we've actually increased the resolution. We're now at 57% of cases resolved at conciliation. With respect to...
Can you think of any reason why you do away with the Zoom hearings on conciliations and things like that?
At this moment, not at all. In respect with conferences, we're actually... In 2019, before the pandemic, we had 11,700 continuances. In 2021, we were down to 5,700. So we literally cut continuances in half because the virtual is there. They have assigned time, so there's less continuances, and people don't have to travel as much. So they're not getting stuck in traffic, conflicts in different regions. So it's been working fine. So whatever they can do in the courtroom has translated to the virtual platform. So again, I can't be more proud of our judges. And I said, these 4 in these rooms, if I could Judge Long,
Judge, I'll give you 1 second. And Judge, we all agree that you're doing a fantastic job. Okay, I think that's unanimous. Counselor Devaney?
Thank you. You got the best boss in the world. First of all, I want to tell you, I've been here 23 years. And I always it's like a report card for the Industrial Action Board. But because they came so fast, they just got nominated, 7 days ago. And so it probably isn't a possibility, but this is the first time I don't have those. And I was really concerned about that. But it's not your fault, it's the council's fault.
And I can speak with respect to their ACEs. They're all highly effective. I've reviewed them personally. I draft them, and all 4 of
I
them.
don't understand. But you know what I loved about it, that it said any discrimination or prejudice.
There hasn't been.
No, but I'm saying, I could look at it.
Right.
I wish we had the district court, superior court, I love it.
I'll be more than happy to send them to you. I can assure you that there is no bias, any discrimination, anything on behalf of these 4 judges.
Saying that, that's what I missed, but when the council scheduled all in one day like that, it's an impossibility for you to give us that. Take your time, I don't need it tomorrow, but, I do like to see it, it's
Sure.
great.
And I know they came up quickly, but they have been overdue for a while, so they were anxious to get case moving.
Does anybody else have any questions for Chief Judge Hernandez?
Same here. Thank you.
Judge Omar Hernandez.
Appreciate it.
We speak right now on behalf of all four.
Yeah,
Spoke on all 4 at once, Chris.
They're all great.
they really are. No, yeah.
We all rely on Counsel Iannella for workers' comp expert,
As well as you should, yes.
because none of us really practice up there. Okay, thank you, Chief Judge. Okay, and we're going to get to the nominee. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Catherine Watson Koziol. I'm an administrative law judge at the Department of Industrial Accidents, as you know. I've been at the department for a total of 17 years. My first 3 years, I was an administrative judge in the Worcester Regional Office, where I sat and I conducted hearings and conferences, the things that Judge Hernandez has just been talking about. For the last 14 years, I've been an administrative law judge on the reviewing board. I actually brought my colleague, administrative law judge Martin. But he's not speaking, he's just,
He's learned well.
he doesn't get
We'll hear from Judge Long in a moment. As
opportunities.
soon as you're finished, we're going to let him pop up, because we are.
Very good. Well, anyways, I am from West Springfield, Massachusetts. I went to the public schools there. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My dad was a railroad engineer and my mom was a dietitian. Went to physical therapy school because who knows what they want to do when they're 18. I didn't, but my mother said, get a profession. So I went to Northeastern. I have a bachelor's of science in physical therapy, worked in physical therapy 5 years, liked it, didn't love it. Series of events happened and people kept telling me you should go to law school. I didn't know any lawyers. Nobody in my family's a lawyer. I never knew any lawyers. I took the LSAT and I went to Boston University School of Law and absolutely loved it and have never looked back. I had the really good fortune of getting to work at Pellegrini and Sealy in Springfield, Mass. And they hired me as a clerk when I was still in law school. And then they hired me as an attorney and they taught me what I know about workers' comp. And from there, I worked for Associate Justice Kent B. Smith of the Massachusetts Appeals Court, and he's extremely well known. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but he was extremely well known for criminal procedure. He wrote the mass practice series, and he's the one who actually got me into writing mass practice for workers' comp. But he was like my mentor. My dad died when I was 15, but Judge Smith took me under his wing, and he was always telling me, "What are you doing next, kid? What are you doing next, kid?" So the next thing I was a staff attorney. Then he said to me, "Okay, you've been a staff attorney 8 years. It's time to move on. Why don't you apply for one of these DIA judgeships?" And I did, and I really liked it. But I really loved appellate work. And so when the opportunity opened up, I applied. And as an administrative law judge, we sit on 3 judge panels to hear appeals from the decisions the judges make. So that's our primary difference in our job description, because after us, if you appeal from our decision, you go to the appeals court. There's no review in the Superior Court. So it's a little bit different procedurally how you get up to the appeals court, but we're the intermediate. And I love it because I think people need to have certainty they can, so that they can make decisions on whether they should settle their case, whether they shouldn't settle their case, whether they should challenge what we write. And I think it helps because when you're an AJ, you can have a really great, exciting case and write a beautiful decision, but nobody else sees it. And if the parties don't appeal, maybe the issue never gets percolated up. So I feel it's very important work and I enjoy it. And I would just ask if you would kindly vote in my favor.
Excellent statement. We're gonna let Judge Long pop up for a minute since I messed up the hearing. Again,
All right.
come on, step up. It's good to see you again, Judge.
See you, Counselor.
You're coming up in December, right?
From what I understand, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
Let's see how he does.
Yeah, let's see how he does today.
So, Councilors, it's an honor and a privilege really to be here to speak on behalf of the reappointment of Judge Koziol. The past 5.5 years, I've been working alongside closely in person, and the last couple of years remotely. And it's based on that experience that I would suggest to you that everybody in this room, all the stakeholders in the workers' comp system will benefit by her reappointment. Not only because of her temperament, her compassion, her understanding of the law. She literally does write the book on workers' compensation. So to have Judge Koziol as a resource at the Department of Industrial Accidents is invaluable. And we are all lucky to have her put her name in to be nominated. I know that a lot of people are concerned about judicial temperament and how does the judge act. I cannot say anything but give the highest praise for Judge Koziol's judicial temperament. Not only does she give litigants and their lawyers the utmost respect, but I think what has driven it home for me is before I became a judge, I would deal with pro se litigants every once in a while. I never really understood or saw how it worked from behind the scenes at the reviewing board. What I've seen Judge Koziol do with her pro se litigants is treat them as if they were the highest paid lawyer from a Boston or a Springfield or any firm.
Counselor Iannella up again there?
I would put him up there, yes. But this is what I'm saying. The way that she treats the pro se litigants and the litigants that do not have attorneys, I think speaks volumes. She gives them the resources, the opportunity. She directs them to exactly where they should be, where they should go. And it's that type of an attitude that I think speaks to her professionalism and just also to her as a person. So again, I would give the utmost support.
Thank you, Judge. And hang around, we might want to have some questions for you, how many times you had to overturn our other nominees. Counselor Juneville.
I'll tell you right now, none.
So where do you sit?
In Boston.
Okay, is that where you both sit?
We both sit in Boston, yes, but with the virtual, a lot of the stuff we're doing is virtual, but
And you say she's got a good temperament?
absolutely.
You ever see her lose her temper?
I don't think I ever have.
Been looking for a woman like that all my life.
This guy found her.
Thank you, Counselor Juneville. Thank you, Judge. So, is there anybody in opposition? Okay, Counselor Ferrara, you're up.
Thank you. I have no questions. Excuse me, I'm not done.
No questions.
No question, but I have a comment.
That's just
Got a half-hour statement to make.
Yeah.
Get the timer ready, 15 minutes.
I have 14 more minutes. I don't do comp work at all, ever. But I do rely on Counsel Iannella. Sean Flaherty also reached out to me and Mike Occasion as well. And they're big fans of all four of you. So you do a great job in making sure that injured workers are treated fairly and properly. So I appreciate all of your efforts. Thank you.
Counselor Juneville.
Don't do workman's comp or workers' comp either. I count on Counselor Iannella and to give me the recommendation, and they're thumbs up with you, so you're fine with me.
Counselor Devaney.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Thank you for coming a distance. The council scheduled 6 hearings today, And I have with people Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And I'm really grateful for the people who take from their weekend to meet with me. Because I want to know the whole person. I already know you, and I know the people, but I want to know what's happened on the board and have it changed and all of that. I was very impressed with you, your writing, and what could be more apropos of this conversation? You wrote a book about that, right? It's about how you did that and how.
It's not like I'm a prosaic writer. It's technical writing, so I'm okay at that. I never got a literary award to try. It's really giving synopsises of what a case is held and what it means for, it's a practice manual for lawyers when they have a case, like what is the law, and to judges in training, you know, the district court judges, the superior court judges, they do training every year. And the Flashner Judicial Institute runs their trainings and provides them with those books. So that was like a year of doing that. And so I assisted him. You know, he was the author, I'm just the co-author, so I assisted him in the preparation of that.
I don't know whether this is apropos, but when you look at, when is the first time you came before me? 18?
2000, it must have been 2005, at the beginning of 2005, because I started in April of 2005.
Well, you've done a great job. I've heard good things about you. And believe me, I hear there isn't. And I'm so pleased with the whole board now. You know, I couldn't say enough about it. So tell me, I don't know whether this is appropriate, but is there, you know, one disabled person that came before you, that you had a case that you will stand out in my memory, that was so significant, maybe it was so rewarding?
One that I, as a judge, that I had as a judge. There's a lot of them, so it's really hard to say because there's a lot of them for a lot of different reasons. And I think the one that was really the saddest one I saw was this man that they thought that he was dangerous. He was in so much pain that he was just like really difficult. And I felt bad for the man because we ended up having a state police officer at the department, and it really wasn't a case of him being a violent person. He had complex regional pain syndrome so bad that he showed up in my courtroom in January, this was back in Worcester, in a t-shirt. January in Worcester is not t-shirt weather, but he couldn't stand having anything touch his skin on his arm. And that was a heartbreaker. But you know, I hadn't seen him before that date. And it was actually one of the other judges that had the case before me. So I didn't know what his situation was. And I was getting information from an attorney who was like, he's threatened me. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, then you go through the senior judge and they all agree to have a state police officer there. But in the end, I felt he really was a threat to him. It was just very sad, very sad.
You have had so many in all these years. Do you ever follow up with any of them or hear how they did at, you know, coming before you disabled and what their future was? Do you ever find that out?
Not really,
Yeah.
unless an attorney tells you what they're doing now. I had one back in the day when I worked at Pellegrini and Saley, and he was a young man who'd been run over, like he operated a pipe bending machine. And he was actually my client, and they took the pipes from the bottom of the pile and they all rolled over on him, 3,500 pounds of pipes on him. And he couldn't go back to construction work. And he ended up putting himself, you know, with the help of Oak Rehab, putting himself through Hoyo Community College. And he's extremely successful right now. So every once in a while, he'll call me up and he'll say, hey, guess what I'm doing now? And it's so usually a new business venture or something. So that's really nice. Yeah.
Well, I'm very happy that you stayed, you're up for reappointment, and I love the board, I love your boss, and it's a nice feeling. It really is nice to have you. And I really enjoyed meeting with you and catching up on the years that you've been on there. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
You, Councilor Ionella.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions. You're doing a great job. Put up now the whole bunch. was excellent. The whole bunch, all four of them were excellent. I didn't meet with any of them like I did the first two because these people got great reviews from the employee bar, whether you're representing an employer or an employee. These people are all fair. They give everyone a fair shot. That's all anybody ever wants. And you got the best supporter in town, the Chief Judge, Maher Hernandez. Looking forward to supporting you next week.
Thank you.
So Duff,
I concur with Council Ianella, who's actually the only one of us who is an expert in your field here. But there's no reason to prolong these hearings for nonsense. You're eminently qualified, you're doing a terrific job, you have great reviews, so I have no questions.
Mr. Paulo.
I hear you do a great job, same as everyone else, except Councilor I know I don't do this practice area, but a few phone calls with these reappointments. And as long as the board is looking out for injured workers and the attorneys and the colleagues have positive things to say, I feel good too. So I look forward to supporting you this week.
Councilor Hurley, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
You're up.
I am very pleased and honored to be able to put your name in nomination next week. Your resume is absolutely fabulous, Judge Koziol, and I would also indicate that obviously you got an A+ rating from Pellegrini Sealy and also from some of the folks in Boston that I checked with. So I'm sure that you're going to, from what everybody said, you will be voted on favorably, and keep doing the great job you've been doing. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Jubenville, did you have another comment? Okay, we're done. Next.
No.
I can stand.
Okay. May 18, 2022, Executive Council, Council Chamber, State House, Boston, Mass. Dear councilors, I'm pleased to nominate John J. Barrett III for reappointment to the position of Administrative Judge at the Department of Industrial Accidents to a 6-year term expiring on January 6, 2027. I submit the nomination for the advice and consider Executive Council pursuant to Mass General Laws 23E, Section 5. I'm enclosing the resume for your convenience. Sincerely, Charles D. Baker. What do we got? We got a witness?
Judge,
Yes. Judge, sure.
already heard from him. You can call the floor.
We'll take that as a yes vote.
A thumbs up?
Okay, tell us briefly, we work under the law of brevity here.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is John Barrett. I'd like to thank you all for having me in today to be interviewed for the nomination for reappointment to the position of Administrative Judge. I'd like to also thank Governor Baker for nominating me to serve in this position. I'm truly honored and humbled to appear before you today. Way of brief background, I'm 53 years old. I was born in Boston and was raised in Rentham, Massachusetts. My mother, a registered nurse for 50 years, just retired, worked at Metro West Medical Center in the labor and delivery department. My father was a police officer and detective, and he passed away back in 1999 from lung cancer. I have a younger brother and 4 younger sisters. I've been very fortunate in my career. I just want to say that right up front. I've served 2 communities as a police officer early on in my career, and I've worked for 3 well-respected law firms as a trial attorney focusing on workers' compensation and general liability cases. For the last 7 years, I've served as an administrative judge, and it's been a privilege of a lifetime to do that. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with the parties and counsel from initial conference through the hearing stage. I've also managed more than 200 mediations in regular workers' comp cases, and also served as the mediating judge in the opioid diversion program. I'm committed to public service, and I respect the system, respect everybody involved in the system, and I'd be honored and it would be a privilege to be able to serve for another 6 years.
Let me ask you, where were you a police officer?
I was a police officer first in Rentham, and I transferred to the transit police in Boston, where I served for 4 years.
Oh, good for you, yeah. And your father was a detective where?
In Rentham for 25 years.
Westwood?
Rentham?
Rentham.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Councilor Devaney, you're up.
Thank you for meeting with me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I can't believe that, I had you on a weekend to come out on a Saturday and Sunday. So I thank you for that. You've had hundreds of cases. Now, tell me, in mediation, so that people out there will understand what you do when you mediate, you served on the opioid committee. Tell us about that particular mediation.
Well, the opioid program, it's a diversion program where it's generally now used in cases where the employee has settled their workers' compensation case. And it comes into the system in a couple of ways. Either the employee petitions to come into the system, or the insurance company files a petition to have the case tracked into the diversion program. And what it is basically, if the case is in the program, we meet with the employee's attorney and the defense attorney, and we discuss what's going on, and usually the employee is struggling with opioid medication long-term, and they're not happy with their lives and how things are going. And what we do is we develop a plan with a care coordinator to work with the treating doctors to come up with a plan to either completely switch somebody from opioid medication onto something else, or more likely reduce the employee's use of or dose level of opioid medication. And we've had a great deal of success, I think, with that program over the years, and I'm proud of it and proud to be a part of it.
Now, how long has this been, the alternative treatment pathway? When did that start?
It started before I became a judge. Judge Hernandez developed it with others, and it was in place before I got here. But I've enjoyed being a part of it, and it's been just a privilege to help.
But it's a sign of the times, isn't it? There must be a lot of workers addicted.
I think it is. I think there's some talk about actually expanding the program to people who are actually still receiving benefits, not just to people who have settled their cases.
There you go, Mark, for starting that. That's wonderful. So how many people do you think have gone through that program in those years?
I don't know the stats. Omar can probably tell you, but I've handled.
Say probably.
Wonderful. They can go on with their lives. Yeah, that's great. So it's been hard through the pandemic, but you've continued. How do you evaluate someone before you who you're not looking in his eyes or her eyes, and I don't know whether you have it on a screen or whatever. How have you been operating?
Well, we have the conference level that we're involved in is virtual. And at that level, generally the employees don't testify at all at that level. We meet with the attorneys and the employees present, but when we're making evaluations of credibility and me actually doing a trial, that's in person. So we're in the room with that person, see them come in, or any witnesses that come in, testify live. So that's how we make evaluations of credibility.
And you've done training to plain justice and all of that.
Yes, I have.
Realize what part of your duties are. It really is amazing.
I did that when I was practicing. We would talk with adjusters and help them understand the system and what's important.
But that prepares you for industrial accident board.
I think so.
No, I'm very pleased. And I have to tell something publicly that I said privately to you. When I was about 10 years old, I used to take piano lessons. and Miss Manning, and her nephew lived with her. And he used to walk down the stairs all the time. He never came in the room where the piano was. I thought he was the most handsome man in the world, and I had the maddest crush at 10 years old on John Barrett. So when I saw that name, I said, oh my God. I embarrassed him. He doesn't know whether he's related. But anyway, yeah, that's my John Barrett story. But really, I'm so pleased with what you've done, and I can't imagine how hard it is. Now, has it increased since you've been on, the number of people coming?
Claims?
Workers?
I don't know that it's increased. I don't know the stats. We've been busy since I started. We've been very busy. But I don't know the numbers, whether they were less before I came on board or whether they've gone up. But we've been steady, I think. Yeah.
Well, we talked a lot, and I just was just a pleasure to meet up with you again and to see you're being reappointed and that you're staying with it, because I can't say enough about the board. And, everybody's working together, and everyone has, that's all of you. And you each have such respect for each other, and that's so important, and for us too. So thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Iannello.
Thank you for coming out this Sunday to meet with me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Again, I have no questions. Familiar with you, your work. Same thing I said with Judge Koziol. You're fair, you're compassionate, you give everyone a clean shake. That's all I'm looking at. It's good work.
Thank you, Counselor.
Councilor Duff.
No questions.
Councilor Kennedy.
I'm just gonna say it again, we rely on Chris, Counselor Iannello. And he says you do a fantastic job up there. Your reputation is great. I'll vote for you.
Thank you very much.
Same, and I would just note that of the reappointments today, it's great to see folks who have different careers besides just in the legal world, both perspective as an employee who's not a lawyer, and on top of it, having worked with the broader population in different ways. So I have no questions for you.
Ferrer.
Record my colleagues, as I said earlier, I don't do it, I rely on Councilor Iannello, and good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Who was the chief in the MBTA when you were there?
The first chief was a Boston lieutenant who was there for about a month, and then it was
Braden?
no, he had just left. Braden was there before I got there. It was I forget his name. Was Ball. I forget his name, but it was O'Donovan.
John O'Donovan,
yeah,
current state police.
Yeah, he was there most of the time I was there. Yeah. Good guy.
Council Jubinville?
Pardon?
Council,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
no problem. Mr. Barrett, we talked for a little bit, and as I told you, I rely on Pellegrini Sealy. They give you an A+ rating, as well as some of the folks out of Boston. So I'm going to vote for you and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Like the other councilors, I rely on Councilor Iannello and the chief, and they both give you the thumbs up, so I'll be voting for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. I appreciate all your time.
On 22, Executive Council, Council Chamber, State House, Boston, Mass. Dear councilors, I'm pleased to nominate Karen A. Fitzgerald for reappointment to the position of Administrative Judge at the Department of Industrial Accidents to a 6-year term, expiring on January 6, 2027. Hopefully, we will all be here at that time. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 23E, Section 5. I'm closing the resume for your convenience. Sincerely, Charles D. Baker, Governor. With that, Councilor Devaney, you're up. You can sit or stand. Oh, I'm sorry. We got to give you a chance.
Hey,
You should waive it.
I'll waive it.
Okay, Councilor Devaney.
That was easy.
Councilor Devaney.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
That was such a pleasure to meet with you, honestly. And it was fun too. I have to say, you know what I'd like you to do? We're on public access, which I love, and I want, people don't know the difference between an administrative law judge or an administrative judge. So would you tell people in the public what the difference is of your, your position and your responsibilities?
Sure. So it is my position as an administrative judge to hear conferences, issue temporary orders, and then do full evidentiary hearings. We also do mediations, which, because of the pandemic, we've been doing a lot more of. The administrative law judge is there as a review board, so that any parties that are dissatisfied with the decision, the hearing decision that we write, will take it to them for review.
I see. So, this has been a difficult year, hasn't it, in the pandemic?
It has.
But you people have continued and you haven't skipped a beat.
We have not.
Absolutely, wonderful.
Correct.
So, these injured workers, have they increased since you've been on, or does it stay the same? Is there any reason to how many come in?
Like Judge Barrett said, I don't know what the statistics are with respect to that, but I can tell you, I have still continued working nonstop and been busy, so I don't know if it's the same, a little bit less, a little bit more. I'm not certain of that.
But, you have worked in law offices, which means a lot to me. I think you bring a lot to the bench with that. And can you tell us some of the experience you've had in law firms related to workman's compensation and the work that you do now?
So for 23 years prior to assuming the bench, I represented employees for the most part. I did dabble a little in insurer defense, but the bulk of my practice was employees. I worked in a couple of law firms before I became self-employed and was working with my dad, fortunately for me, for 15 years prior to coming on the bench. My dad had practiced workers' comp for over 50 years, so I couldn't really ask for a better mentor. And so, each case is different. You handle each case differently. You prepare as best you can.
In talking with you, I saw the influence your dad had. What a wonderful opportunity you had to go to him and ask questions and learn from him.
It was wonderful. And I was fortunate enough to start when there were people like Judge Maher who were working for Liberty Mutual and were kind to the new attorneys and helped us out. So I've been very fortunate.
Well, he must be very proud that you followed in his footsteps. So what do you think is the biggest challenge on the Industrial Accident Board? Is there a challenge?
It's hard to say if there's a challenge because I think the challenge that we've faced has been the pandemic. And I think with Judge Hernandez's guidance and direction, we have stayed open. We have continued. We have not skipped a beat, whether we started first with, conference calls on the phone and hearing cases to then going virtual. I feel that we haven't skipped a beat. And I think the pandemic really would have been a tipping point. And
Are you still virtual?
we're virtual for conferences. We are live for hearings. We are probably 95% virtual for mediations. If there's a special circumstance and we're asked to come in to do a mediation, we will do that as well.
Right. Well, thank you for reapplying and I thank you for all, your time on the board. I thank you for coming out and meeting with me because it was a marathon.
Thank you.
Counselor Iannello.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions. I mean, Judge, you got a great bunch of.
I do. I'm very lucky.
I just have one question more towards the judges. I'm sitting here.
That's not my fault. I know, my fault. That's Sean, Dr. Sean. Jeez.
But again, good seeing you.
Thank you as well.
Looking forward to supporting you.
Thank you.
It's enough.
No questions, thank you.
Kennedy. Counselor DiPaolo.
I have no no questions.
No, okay, sorry, Counselor Ferrera. Oh, wait a minute, wait, Counselor Hurley.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Again, great resume. Only question is, James F. Fitzgerald Jr., is that a relative?
That was my dad.
Okay. I practiced law with my dad, which is always a great experience. Again, you've got a great resume, and I'm going to be voting for you. So thanks very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Counselor.
Counselor Ferrera.
Thank you. Once again, I did ask other attorneys, including Counsel, I don't know about you, thinks you're awesome, and I remember Sean Flaherty saying you are outstanding. So you have my support this week.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think you got a great resume, and I really am glad you had a chance to work with your dad all those years. And Counselor Ianella and Chief Fernandez give you the thumbs up, so you'll be getting my vote next week.
Thank you very much.
Meeting is closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Are we having the hearing on Dennis Maher?
And I'll quickly read into the record a letter from Governor Baker. I am pleased to nominate Dennis M. Maher for reappointment to the position of Administrative Judge, Department of Industrial Accidents, to a 6-year term expiring September 15th, 2026. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 23E, Section 5, I'm enclosing the nominee's resume for convenience. Sincerely, Charles D. Baker. And with that, I heard whispering before this hearing was called to order that you're waiving your statement. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And are there any witnesses to speak on your behalf?
Judge.
Hernandez.
Which we heard from. So I'll start with Counselor Hurley. Do you have any questions for the nominee?
No, I don't have any questions. And again, I'm with Pellegrini Sealy. I also have the expertise of our fellow Counselor Ianella. And I think you've done a great job from all I've heard, and you'll continue to do a great job with your reappointment. So thank you very much.
You have many pieces of the Pellegrini and Sealy group out of Worcester. They do an excellent job. Their clients couldn't be any better represented.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Counselor Ferrera.
Thank you. I'll just reiterate that, again, Counsel Ianella, Sean Flaherty, and Michael Occasion reached out to me on your behalf. And they all think you do a great job, so you have my support next week. Thank you.
Counselor Jumbo.
Same with me. How long you been on the board now?
18.
No, 13 and a half.
13 and a half. Well, you've done a wonderful job, and Counselor Ianella and your chief give you a big, good rating, so that's fine with me. I'm going to vote for you next week.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Counselor Devaney.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too.
I'm
Just yesterday.
going to pronounce your name the Irish way, Maher, right? Okay. And I just wanted to say that, 14 years, have you seen any changes in the way the board works or the people coming through? Change at all?
Well, I think obviously with the pandemic, things changed a lot. I mean, we've got the virtual conferences now. I know the conciliations are virtual. Hearings are, it's a little bit different. They were wearing masks for a while. That was troubling, what people giving testimony, but that's been the biggest change. The type of work people do is changing a little bit too. We don't have some of the manufacturing type jobs that once upon a time we did, but we have a lot of other type of.
Have you seen in the 14 years that injured workers, disabled, have drug addictions? Has that increased in the 14 years?
Well, actually, it kind of peaked. Judge Barrett was talking about the opioid alternative treatment path, but I think opioids were such a big out for painkillers for most of the doctors, and patients got them. They reduced their pain. They wanted to have them, and then they just stayed with it. And I think addiction was a major problem. I think, as we've all seen in the newspapers, on TV and everything else, that it was a really big problem. And speaking towards the opioid alternative treatment program, it was Judge Hernandez who started it and got it rolling. And one of the things I've seen over the years with that is because of all the publicity about the companies with their addiction plan to get people hooked, that people are starting to realize that they have to be off it. So in terms of getting people off opioids, it's really gotten to be a lot easier from our perspective because they want to be off it.
Well, you know, I think that Hernandez should see that this was signed the time for the opioid, you know? And now, are they involved with the drug courts, or you can handle it right there with that opiate?
No, we don't get no criminal or drug courts at all.
Yeah.
Very little.
No, I think that's wonderful. So you've been working through the pandemic. Have you found anything different in the pandemic regarding getting your work or your workload?
I think the workload's kind of stayed the same. I think, once again, Judge Hernandez, I know he said something nice about me, so I'm going to work on saying things nice about him. But he kept the place open. It was really important to do that. I mean, even the trial courts were shut down, but we were still doing virtual conferences, all our motion sessions, all our pre-hearing, our pre-trial conferences, I guess we call them. They're all virtual. We get them done. They move along. Cases are moving. Our backlogs are really reducing.
Well, you told me one advantage to the pandemic was that you could expand the print and everything.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the medical records, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier if you saw me read my opening in big print. It's much easier to read when you can blow them up.
So there was an advantage.
A big advantage. That and
Listen,
Candace talked about the idea of.
thank you for serving for 14 years and you're working with a great group, and thank you again. And I'm so pleased that the four of you have been reappointed, rightfully so. And I just have to tell you that we have one lawyer here that is an expert in this, so I know that he's very happy with the four too, Councilor Ainella.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Iannella.
Yeah, same as the others, I mean, Judge Marsden, I can't say enough, he's just great. Same type of sentiments as the last. Great. Wish you all the best, and more than happy to support you in your name comes before us.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Duff.
Thank you, Judge. You're actually one that I did receive calls about. Your reputation is stellar, and you certainly deserve it. So
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Kennedy.
I sound like a broken record, you know, in terms of relying on Chris Iannella because, you know, he's the one we go to. So I neglect to say with John and you know, about all four of you, I got great things to say. I'm not that good at math, but I think you said you were on 14 and a half years?
It was 13 and a half.
13 and a half, and how long is this appointment for?
This is, well, it'd be 4.5, right?
So
4.5 more years.
So using my math, you need one more term anyway, right? You're gonna be back here in a few years to get that little bump at the end when you retire, right?
Maybe we'll see about, I have an appointment with Peter or something before that, so we'll see.
Well, see what Iannella says about you in 4.5 years and then decide.
Yes.
All set. I'll vote for you next week.
Thank you, Counselor. The only thing I'll add to what's been said here is I think you have a great background. I spoke of this at the last hearing. It's great to see folks who have had career experience outside of the law. You have great community involvement. And I heard the highest possible praise from Michael Occasion, which I think I mentioned to you when we spoke. So with that, I have no questions for you, but I do look forward to putting your name forward and supporting your reappointment at our next assembly.
Thank you very much.
And with that, this hearing is closed.